Disclaimer: this content is only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. I never thought one conversation could change everything. But sometimes, love isn't about knowing all the answers, it's about discovering them together. It all started on a quiet evening, just me and my husband, Sam, sitting across from each other at the dinner table. The soft clinking of silverware filled the space between us, but there was something else, something unspoken. A feeling that had been lingering for weeks, maybe even months. "You've been thinking about it, haven't you?" Sam asked, his voice calm but knowing. I looked up from my plate, meeting his deep brown eyes. He always had this way of seeing through me, past my hesitation, past my doubt. I hesitated before answering. I don't know, Sam. It's a big decision." He reached across the table, his fingers brushing against mine. "I get it," he said softly. I wasn't sure either at first. That was the moment everything shifted. Because Sam wasn't pushing me. He wasn't trying to convince me. He just understood. And that scared me more than anything. I had always been the type to analyze things to exhaustion, to weigh every possibility before making a choice. But marriage, love, these things weren't always about logic. They were about trust. About faith in someone else, even when you couldn't see the full picture. And yet, despite his patience, I could sense his own thoughts, his own hopes lingering beneath the surface. Was he waiting for me to say yes? Or was he just afraid of hearing no? I took a deep breath, trying to push away the uncertainty swirling inside me. What if? My voice trailed off. I didn't even know how to finish that sentence. Sam squeezed my hand gently. "Then we figure it out. Together." His words should have been reassuring. But instead, they made my heart race. Because if I said yes, if I took that step, there was no turning back. And I wasn't sure if I was ready for that. What would you do in my place? Have you ever faced a moment where your heart and mind were at war? Tell me in the comments, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to hear what happened next, because trust me, this story is just getting started. I sat there, staring at my husband, my fingers still caught in his gentle grasp. The warmth of his touch was familiar, comforting even, but it didn't quiet the storm in my head. I had spent so much time convincing myself I wasn't ready, that this wasn't the right time, that maybe we weren't ready. But then, why did a part of me, one I was too afraid to acknowledge, want to say yes? Sam didn't pressure me. He never did. That was the thing about him, his patience could stretch endlessly, even when I knew he had his own fears. And yet, tonight, there was something different. Something unspoken in the way his thumb traced slow circles over the back of my hand. A quiet urgency in his eyes, like he was holding his breath, waiting for me to decide something that would change everything. "I just don't want to make the wrong choice," I finally admitted, my voice softer than I intended. Sam tilted his head slightly, considering me. "But what if there isn't a wrong choice?" I sighed, pulling my hand away so I could rub my temples. "That's easy for you to say." He let out a small chuckle, not in amusement, but in that way he always did when he saw straight through me. "You think I haven't had doubts?" he asked. "You think I haven't laid awake at night wondering if I'd regret my decisions?" That caught me off guard. Sam was always so sure of things, or at least, that's how he made it seem. The idea that he had struggled, even hesitated the way I was now, felt almost impossible to believe. "Then why did you do it?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. "Because sometimes, the fear of missing out on something incredible is greater than the fear of making the wrong choice." His words settled into the space between us, heavy and lingering. I wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that my fear wasn't a sign to run but a sign to leap. But what if he was wrong? What if I said yes, and everything fell apart? The what ifs clawed at me, dragging me further into my own uncertainty. And yet, deep down, I knew this wasn't just about making a choice. It was about letting go of control, about trusting something bigger than my own doubts. "I don't know if I can," I admitted, looking away. Sam didn't try to change my mind. He just reached across the table again, this time not to hold my hand but just to remind me he was there. "Then don't decide tonight," he said simply. Just think about it. And that was the hardest part. Because thinking about it meant feeling it. And feeling it meant I had to admit, maybe, just maybe, I already knew the answer. What would you do in my place? Would you take the risk or walk away? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to hear what happened next, because trust me, things are about to get even more complicated. That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, staring at the ceiling, my thoughts looping in endless circles. Sam's words echoed in my mind, what if there isn't a wrong choice? But what if there was? What if I said yes and regretted it? Or worse, what if I said no and lost something I couldn't get back? I turned onto my side, glancing at Sam. He was asleep, his chest rising and falling in steady rhythms. He looked peaceful, as if this conversation hadn't shaken him the way it had shaken me. Or maybe he was just good at hiding it. I envied that about him, the way he could carry uncertainty without letting it consume him. Meanwhile, I was drowning in my own thoughts. The next morning, I found him in the kitchen, already making coffee. The scent filled the air, warm and inviting, but my stomach twisted with nerves. He turned when he heard me walk in, giving me a soft smile. "Morning," he said, handing me a mug. I took it, but I didn't sip. "Did you mean what you said last night?" I asked. "That you had doubts too?" Sam leaned against the counter, watching me. Of course. I wouldn't be human if I didn't. That answer should have reassured me, but it didn't. If anything, it made me more confused. "Then how did you get past them?" He was quiet for a moment, his fingers tapping against the ceramic of his own mug. "I didn't," he admitted. "I just decided which fear I was willing to live with." I stared at him, my heart pounding. Which fear I was willing to live with. That was the choice, wasn't it? There was no perfect answer, no guarantee that things would work out. Only the decision of which risk I was willing to take. I sat down at the kitchen table, my hands wrapped around the warmth of my coffee mug, but I barely felt it. "And what if I choose wrong?" Sam sat across from me, his expression unreadable. "Then we figure it out." The way he said we, as if this wasn't just my burden to carry, made something shift inside me. It wasn't just about me, wasn't just about my fears. This was about us. About trust. About what it meant to take a step forward, even when I wasn't sure where it would lead. But I still wasn't ready to say it out loud. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed on the table. I glanced down, my stomach tightening when I saw the name on the screen. A reminder of why this decision wasn't as simple as I wanted it to be. I looked back at Sam, my heart racing. "There's something I haven't told you." His expression didn't change, but I saw the flicker of concern in his eyes. "What is it?" I hesitated, my fingers gripping my mug tighter. Because once I said it, there was no going back. "What do you think I'm about to reveal?" Drop your guesses in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe to find out what happens next, because trust me, this is just the beginning. Sam's eyes stayed locked on mine, waiting. His patience had always been one of the things I loved about him, but right now, it made my heart pound even harder. Because the words were right there, sitting on the tip of my tongue, and yet, I couldn't seem to say them. My phone buzzed again on the table, the screen lighting up. The same name. The same reminder that this wasn't just about me and Sam anymore. He followed my gaze, then looked back at me, his voice calm but firm. "Who is it?" I swallowed hard, fingers gripping my mug like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. "It's nothing," I mumbled, but even I knew that wasn't convincing. Sam didn't press, but his silence was heavier than any words he could have spoken. He was waiting for me to tell him the truth. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if I could. The thing about relationships, real ones, the kind built on trust and love, is that they're supposed to feel safe. But right now, I felt like I was standing on the edge of something dangerous. "I should get that," I finally said, my voice barely above a whisper. Sam didn't stop me. He just watched as I stood up, grabbed my phone, and walked toward the other room. But I could feel his eyes on me the whole time. I hesitated before answering, my thumb hovering over the screen. Then, with a deep breath, I pressed the button. "Hello." The voice on the other end was steady, familiar, and yet every time I heard it, I felt the same cold rush of uncertainty. "We need to talk," they said. I glanced back toward the kitchen, knowing Sam was still sitting there, waiting for me to come back. Waiting for the truth. I gripped the phone tighter. "Now's not a good time. This can't wait," the voice insisted. My heart pounded. I had spent weeks, months, trying to avoid this moment, convincing myself that if I ignored it long enough, it would go away. But now, there was no more running. "I'll call you back," I said quickly, hanging up before they could argue. I stood there for a moment, staring at the screen, my pulse racing. Then I turned and walked back to the kitchen. Sam was still there, his coffee untouched now, his expression unreadable. I sat down slowly, my hands twisting in my lap. I could feel the words forming, the weight of them pressing against my chest. But saying them out loud, that would change everything. Sam leaned forward slightly. "Who was it?" I took a shaky breath, forcing myself to meet his eyes. "I need to tell you something," I said, my voice unsteady. And just like that, the moment I had been dreading was here. "What do you think happens next?" Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe because trust me, the truth changes everything. Sam didn't move. He didn't rush me. He just sat there, waiting, his steady presence making it impossible to pretend like this wasn't a big deal. I opened my mouth, but for a second, nothing came out. How do you tell someone something that could change everything? Finally, I forced the words out. "That was someone from my past." His expression didn't shift, but I saw the flicker of something in his eyes. He wasn't the type to jump to conclusions, but I knew his mind was already working through the possibilities. "Okay," he said carefully. And. Such a simple word, but right now, it felt impossible to answer. I exhaled slowly, gripping the edge of the table like it could somehow steady me. "I thought I was done with this part of my life," I admitted. "I thought I had moved on. But they keep reaching out, and I don't know what they want." Sam's jaw tensed slightly. "What do you want?" That was the problem. I wasn't sure. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. Sam glanced at it, and for the first time, I saw something shift in his expression. Concern. Maybe even something closer to fear. "You should answer," he said, but his voice wasn't as steady as before. I hesitated, then picked up the phone. "Hello." This time, the voice on the other end wasn't calm. It wasn't patient. It was urgent. "We don't have much time," they said. "I need you to listen." I swallowed hard. "Why now?" "Because I made a mistake," the voice admitted. "And it might affect you more than I thought." My fingers tightened around the phone. "What are you talking about?" A pause. Then, the words that made my stomach drop. "I shouldn't have left when I did. And now, I need your help before it's too late." I stood there, frozen, my heart hammering. I could feel Sam watching me, waiting for some kind of explanation. But how could I explain something I barely understood myself? "This isn't my problem," I whispered, more to myself than to them. "You don't have a choice," they said. It already started. The call ended. I lowered the phone slowly, my mind racing. Sam's voice was quiet, but firm. "What's going on?" I looked at him, my chest tightening. How could I tell him that the past I had buried, the one I had promised myself would never touch our life together, was back? And worse, that it might not let me go this time? If you were in my shoes, what would you do? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because trust me, things are about to get even more complicated. I sat there, gripping my phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. The air in the room felt heavier, charged with something unspoken. Sam was still watching me, his expression carefully neutral, but I knew him well enough to see the concern buried just beneath the surface. "I need you to tell me what's going on," he said, his voice calm but firm. I wanted to. I wanted to spill everything, to hand over this weight sitting on my chest, but where would I even start? How do you explain something that doesn't even feel real? "They need my help," I finally admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "Something happened, and I think I might be the only person who can fix it." Sam exhaled slowly. And this person, are they dangerous? I hesitated just long enough for the answer to be obvious. I don't know, I admitted, and it was the truth. I had no idea if this was a mistake from the past just circling back or something much, much bigger. Sam leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. Do you want to help them? That was the question, wasn't it? Because part of me wanted to pretend none of this was happening. To go back to our quiet life, where my biggest concern was what movie to watch on Friday nights. But another part of me, the part that had never quite let go of the past, knew I wasn't walking away from this. Before I could answer, a knock at the door made us both freeze. I glanced at Sam, and he was already standing, his jaw tight. Are you expecting someone? He asked. I shook my head. The knock came again, more urgent this time. My pulse pounded in my ears. Sam moved first, walking to the door, hesitating just for a second before unlocking it. When he pulled it open, I felt my breath catch. The person standing there looked exactly the same. Same sharp eyes, same familiar way they carried themselves, like they were always one step ahead. Except this time, they looked desperate. You need to come with me, they said, their voice low. Now. Sam's body shifted slightly, placing himself between us. Not until you explain what's going on. The person looked past him, straight at me. It's already started. And if you don't help, someone else is going to get hurt. A cold chill ran down my spine. This wasn't just about me anymore. I looked at Sam, my stomach twisting. This was the moment. The one where everything changed. What would you do if you were in my place? Would you go, or would you walk away? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because trust me, this isn't over yet. For a long moment, no one moved. Sam stood firm, his jaw clenched, his stance protective. The person at the door, someone I had tried to forget, someone I never thought I'd see again, watched me with an intensity that sent a chill through my entire body. And me. I was stuck in the space between my past and my present, forced to make a decision that would change everything. I swallowed hard, my voice unsteady. Tell me the truth. Why are you here? Their expression darkened. Because I messed up. And if you don't help me fix it, someone else is going to pay for it. Sam exhaled sharply, his patience thinning. You can't just show up after all this time and expect her to drop everything. The person shifted their weight, glancing toward Sam. You don't understand. She's already involved. Whether she likes it or not. My heart pounded at their words. Because deep down, I knew they were right. No matter how much I wanted to ignore this, pretend like my life with Sam existed in some perfect little bubble, the past had a way of creeping back in. I turned to Sam, my throat tight. I need to do this. His eyes searched mine, and I could see the conflict there, the part of him that wanted to protect me, to tell me to stay. But then, something softened. He knew me. He knew I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I walked away from this. Sam sighed, running a hand through his hair. Then I'm coming with you. The person at the door looked between us, surprised. You sure about that? Sam met their gaze without hesitation. She's my wife. I'm not letting her do this alone. Something inside me shifted, a warmth settling into my chest. This wasn't just my fight anymore. Sam wasn't letting me carry it alone. The person gave a slow nod. Then let's go. The next few hours were a blur. Conversations filled with half-truths, explanations that only raised more questions. But at the heart of it all, one thing was clear: this wasn't just about the past anymore. It was about the choices we made, the people we protected, and the risks we were willing to take for the ones we loved. By the time it was over, when the dust finally settled, I realized something. I had spent so much time being afraid of making the wrong choice, but maybe Sam had been right all along. Maybe there wasn't a wrong choice. Only the one I could live with. As we stood together, the weight of everything finally lifting, Sam reached for my hand. You okay? I squeezed his fingers, exhaling slowly. I think I will be. Because no matter what happened next, I wasn't facing it alone. What do you think about the ending? Would you have made the same choice? Let me know in the comments, and if you want a sequel, don't forget to like and subscribe. Because trust me, there's always more to the story.